Welcome back everyone to part 5 of What If Zoro Was Reborn in Demon Slayer. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and without wasting time, let's get back to it.
Side story, A Sword's Breath. The afternoon sun in Shimotsuki village was gentle that day, casting warm streaks of gold across the dojo's polished wooden floor. The clang of practice swords had died down for the day, the students dispersing one by one. Only the soft shish of a broom on the veranda could be heard, and the faint smell of oil drifted from the storage room. Inside, Kushiro sat cross-legged before a low wooden table. Laid across it was a sheathed katana, its lacquered scabbard glinting faintly. Beside it, a folded cloth, a small bottle of sword oil, and a powder ball rested neatly. At the door, a much younger Zoro, no more than 12 years old, stood watching with curiosity. Kushiro looked up. Zoro. Come here. Zoro patted over, eyes glued to the sword. Do you know why I keep this one here instead of in the rack with the others? Kushiro asked. Zoro tilted his head. 'Cause it's special. Kushiro nodded slowly. Special, yes. But not because of its age or craftsmanship. It's special because it has been cared for every single day since it was forged. A sword's life depends on the hands that keep it alive. He gestured for Zoro to sit. Today, you'll learn how to keep a blade breathing. Step 1: Respect before touch. Kushiro placed both palms on the table and bowed his head briefly before unsheathing the sword. Before you even think of cleaning it, you acknowledge it. The sword is not an object. It's a partner that shares your battles. A swordsman who forgets this will never hear the blade's voice. Zoro blinked. Blades talk. Not with words. They tell you when they're ready, when they're tired, and when they've had enough of you. Kushiro replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Step 2: Disassembly. He removed the peg holding the hilt to the tang and gently separated the parts, laying them out with precision. Every part matters. Dust in the guard, moisture under the hilt wrapping, these are the quiet ways a sword begins to die. Zoro reached out, but Kushiro stopped him. Not yet. First, learn to look before you touch. Step 3: Purification. Kushiro picked up the powder ball, tapping a fine dust across the blade. He explained. The Uchiko ball cleans away old oil and grit. Always from the spine toward the edge, never sideways. The edge demands respect, and it will take your skin if you get careless. Zoro leaned closer, watching the powder settle like pale snow on steel. Step 4: Breathing life back. Using a soft cloth, Kushiro wiped the blade in long, slow strokes. The steel gleamed faintly in the light. A sword is like a living being. This, he tapped the blade, is its skin. Keep it clean, keep it oiled, and it will never betray you in the rain or the blood of battle. He poured a single drop of oil onto the cloth, spreading it evenly. Too much, and it suffocates. Too little, and it dries out. Balance, Zoro. A swordsman's first lesson is balance in all things. Step 5: Return to rest. When the work was done, Kushiro reassembled the sword and slid it smoothly into its scabbard. The sword sleeps now, ready for the next fight. When you hold a well-kept blade, it will feel eager in your hands. Neglect it, and it will feel heavy, almost resentful. Zoro's eyes were wide. So, taking care of your sword makes it stronger. It makes you stronger, Kushiro corrected. Because you learn patience, discipline, and responsibility. Without those, you can't even protect your own blade, let alone your life. That night, Zoro sat cross-legged in his small room, his two battered practice swords laid across his lap. He imitated Kushiro's motions as best he could with an old rag and a drop of oil. His hands were clumsy, his strokes uneven, but his eyes were sharp, filled with quiet determination. It was the first time he understood that being a swordsman wasn't just about cutting things down, it was about keeping something alive. Time skip: 2 years later, Zoro is 16 years old. The morning mist hung low over Shimotsuki village, softening the edges of tiled rooftops and the wisteria blooms swaying gently in the breeze. Zoro stood at the entrance of the dojo. He wore a white short-sleeved shirt with dark green pants and boots. On his biceps was tied a dark green cloth, Wado Ikimonji tucked at his hip, a travel pack slung over his shoulder. His green haramaki belt was tightened firmly, the knot pulled with more conviction. Kushiro stood waiting for him, hands folded calmly behind his back, a faint smile hidden beneath his usual serenity. Behind him, the students gathered, some trying to look cheerful, others clearly fighting the sting of parting. They had trained, spared and shared meals together for years. It was hard. Zoro, Kushiro began, voice quiet but carrying through the cool air. The path you've chosen is steep, unyielding, and full of blades that do not forgive mistakes. His gaze softened. But you've walked the first steps well. You have the strength to keep walking. Zoro bowed low, the gesture stiff but deep with respect. Thank you. For everything. One of the younger students stepped forward, eyes wide. Zoro ni, will you really fight other swordsmen out there? Zoro smirked. Yeah. And I'm gonna beat them all. Kushiro's expression grew more serious. Remember what I've taught you, the sword is not your hand, but your will-made steel. Never draw it in arrogance. Never break it in carelessness. And never lose sight of the reason you fight. From the group, Urashima spoke out. Try not to get killed, Mosshead. Shut up. Zoro shot back, but there was no heat in it, only the edge of a grin. Kushiro stepped aside, the road beyond the village stretching out like a blade cutting through the horizon. Go, he said simply. Zoro took his first step beyond the wisteria's reach. The petals swirled around him in the wind, falling like a quiet blessing. None of them waved, but every eye followed him until the mist swallowed his figure, their silence heavier than words. Is someone gonna tell him that he's going the wrong direction? One of the students said with a deadpan face. Don't ruin the moment, another said. He will find his way eventually. Kushiro and the students just smiled. They were going to miss Zoro. Zoro, Kuina's will and dreams I leave to you. Be the greatest swordsman and fulfill your promise, Kushiro said as he stared at Zoro's back as he was getting further and further. The salty wind carried the stench of rotting fish and despair through Hatsuyume, a small village crumbling under the weight of its own decay. Exhaustion dragged at Roronoa Zoro, limbs like iron chains, his stomach a hollow void. 3 days without food had reduced the world to a blur of swaying docks and leering faces. He stumbled into the W Tavern where raucous pirates toasted their latest plunder. At the center sat Billy, a hulking brute with a 5 million berry bounty and a laugh like grinding stones. Zoro collapsed onto a stool, ignoring the barkeep's demand for payment. I'll pay. He rasped, thumbing the hilt of his lone katana. With the bounty from the rat behind me. Billy surged forward, but Zoro's blade flashed, a single, precise cut. The pirate crumpled. From the shadows, 2 wide-eyed bounty hunters, Johnny and Yosaku, protested. We spotted him first. Zoro dismissed them, his eyes distant. I hunt ronin and bandits for food, not glory. My dream is to surpass the greatest swordsman and become the world's greatest swordsman, and to do that I have to defeat that man. Yosaku scoffed, but Johnny fell silent, memories of his own abandoned dreams rekindled. As Zoro left, a tremor shook the town. Dick the bandit and his bandits descended, torches devouring grain stores. A boy, Harry hurled a rock at Dick, only to be swatted aside. Johnny's fists clenched as they watched Harry get stomped. We fight for justice, he declared. Yosaku hesitated but joined him. Their courage faltered when Dick revealed Billy was his brother. Beaten and bloodied, the hunters faced execution, until Zoro returned, stopping the incoming blade with his sword. You'll have to forgive me, but I am gonna have to take your prey again. I just had some urgent money issues pop up. Zoro asked, a ghost of a smile on his lips. As he said this, he wore his bandana on his head and placed Wado Ikimonji on his mouth. Mind if I borrow your swords? He asked Yosaku and Johnny, who laying on the floor beaten. No, not at all, but why do you need 3 sword? Yosaku paused mid-sentence as he and Johnny exclaimed in shock. 3 swords. That means you're the Ronin hunter, Roronoa Zoro. Their words caused shock among everyone who was there. They had all heard of the infamous Ronin hunter. He's been gaining infamy the last couple of months for his strength and 3-sword style. He's defeated and captured over a dozen of bandits and Ronin. Before clashing, Zoro remembered his visit to a swordsmith. He stared at the blade, the blade's edge gleamed like a tear. You treat swords as tools, Tengen chided, holding up Zoro's shattered former blades. A blade is not just a tool, it's an extension of you. Honor it. Zoro's eyes widened after hearing that. He recalled the words his sensei said months ago. Flashback, years ago. Crack. It's just wood. It's not like I broke a real blade. That is the kind of thinking that gets swordsmen killed, Kushiro replied, voice calm but carrying the weight of a reprimand. He held the broken piece out in front of Zoro's face. A sword, whether steel or wood, is an extension of yourself. When it breaks from your carelessness, it is as if you have broken. To treat a sword as disposable is shameful, to a swordsman, to your teacher, and to yourself. Kushiro stood, holding his own bakken lightly in one hand. This brings us to the second principle, grip and control. He stepped into a ready stance, the wooden sword held with both hands. Your grip changes the nature of every strike. Too tight, and you sacrifice speed and fluidity. Too loose, and your blade will be knocked away or shatter like yours just did now. Flashback end. In the forge's heat, he recalled the words of his teacher. As he held a sword on each hand and Wado Ikimonji on his mouth, he relaxed his stance and focused on the target ahead. Focus, I've gotten way stronger but the swords are still the same. I need to get the most out of each sword without overdoing it. Just like Sensei Kushiro said, not too tight and not too loose. My name will be so great that it will even reach the heavens. Now, that promise felt heavier than steel. Soon he would be the greatest swordsman. So you're the fabled Ronin hunter we've heard about, Dick said with an arrogant smirk on his face. The bandits' laughter rang out in small field. It doesn't matter what kind of reputation you have, Zoro, or the fact that you fight with 3 swords, even with them you won't be able to defeat that many men at the same time, Dick said while laughing. Using 3 swords isn't the same as using 3 swords style genius, Zoro relied as he got ready. Oh, it's not, like it even matters, Ronin hunter, run him through, fellas. The bandits all charged at Zoro. Zoro closed his eyes briefly, focusing intently and telegraphing his movements in his head. He opened his eyes and moved with a speed the bandits could not comprehend, cutting down each and every bandit while gracefully dodging all their weapons. By the time they bandits realized what happened, Zoro was already behind them and they were all falling to the ground defeated. Dick's face expressed his shock. Everyone was shocked. Oh man, he did. Johnny exclaimed in shock. Incredible, Yosaku exclaimed. Zoro briefly looked back at his work, but this is the open Dick needed as he rushed forward to Zoro to strike him down. Zoro was caught off guard and didn't expect an attack from Dick. Watch out! Everyone exclaimed. Before Dick could land an attack, he was suddenly doused by water courtesy of Harry the young boy. This left Dick stunned and he recovered a second too late as Zoro was already poised to strike. Onigiri. Zoro was already behind Dick, who was falling to the ground in defeat, blood spraying out from his body. So that's the 3-sword style, he said. Dick fell to the ground in defeat and everyone watching was shocked, mouths wide open. Zoro looked back at his defeated opponent and then to the swords he was holding. Oh, good they didn't breath this time, he said in satisfaction. Roranoa Zoro. Johnny called out as he and Yosaku stood facing Zoro, hands folded, their bodies littered with injuries and their bodies twitching in pain as if they would collapse any second. We are deeply impressed by your skills, would you let us join you? We are the famed bounty hunting duo that's fearsome to silence a crying child by a hair, Yosaku and Johnny. Zoro looked at the duo and grinned. Suit yourself. Johnny and Yosaku exclaimed in joy as they yelled out. Big bro. In a small village called Shell's Village we see a young man with shoulders, black hair and pale skin wearing a haori with purple flames at the bottom. Alongside with him was a woman of unparalleled beauty and grace, she had pale skin and white hair tied to a bun. The name of the man was Kagaya Ubuyashiki and the woman was Amane Ubuyashiki. They were husband and wife. They were walking down the quiet streets of Shell's Village after dismounting their carriage, they were in search for food. Kagaya, was it really worth making this trip just to see the shogun? Amane asked. Yes, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. Something does not add up with the death of the previous shogun and something doesn't feel right with the new shogun, Kagaya said as he held the hand of Amane. Do you think the new shogun did something to the old one? Amane asked. I don't know, but I have a feeling that this is something that goes deeper than the titles of shogun. It definitely needs further investigation, Kagaya replied. Amane hummed in agreement. She looked around the street they were walking, there was no one in sight except the two of them. It's unusually quiet, even for a small village like this, Amane said. Kagaya nodded in agreement. It must be because of the new Yakuza family that has taken over, I didn't expect them to move this quickly, Kagaya said. They spotted a restaurant and headed in that direction. I've heard rumors while on our way here about an infamous bandit being imprisoned here. Roranoa Zoro. They say he's a demon cloaked in human flesh, Amane said. Kagaya turned to Amane in surprise. I've heard of him, they say he hunts bandits and ronin and his skills with a blade are extraordinary. I want to talk to him. You want to recruit him to the corps? Amane asked. Yes, I have a feeling that have some of his strength and talent would largely benefit the corps, Kagaya replied. They entered the restaurant which didn't have a lot of people in it. They sat down at the counter and a lady came to serve them. Hello, my name is Ririka, thank you for choosing this restaurant. What would you like to have? Ririka said to them as she handed them the menu. Kagaya and Amane smiled at the women as they chose what they wanted to have. Coming right up. I'll be done in no time. Kagaya and Amane saw a young girl making what appeared to be rice balls behind the counter. They figured that she was the daughter of Ririka since she was behind the counter. Ririka delivered their food to them and they ate in silence. Before leaving they asked Ririka on why it was so quiet around the village. It's because of the new Yakuza family that took over, they are violent and beat anyone who disobey their orders. Kagaya just nodded as his suspicions were confirmed. He then asked Ririka on whether Roronoa Zoro was really imprisoned here. Yes, he is imprisoned on a field at the other side of the village. Ririka said, although there was sadness in her tone and this was noticed by both Kagaya and Amane. Why was he imprisoned? Amane asked. Not long after the new Yakuza family took over, Helmeppo the son of Axe-Hand Morgan. The one in charge for this branch of the family. Helmeppo came into the village with his wild dog as it caused rampage around everywhere it went. He threatened that if anyone did anything to the dog they would be executed. They eventually entered the restaurant eating the food of other customers and causing a rakus. The dog charged at Rika my daughter but before it could do anything, it was kicked away by Roronoa Zoro who was eating his food at the counter. Helmeppo attacked Zoro but was swiftly defeated by him and was about to get killed however Helmeppo halted Zoro's actions by saying that if he gets killed, Morgan will make sure me and Rika are executed. So he offered him an ultimatum that in our place Zoro would tied to a pole and if he can survive 1 month, he'll be set free. It's been 3 weeks, he's not as bad as people make him out to be. Zoro, he's a great man, Ririka said with sadness in her voice. Kagaya and Amani looked at her in shock and interest. 3 weeks without food or anything. They both internally exclaimed. I see, how amazing, Kagaya exclaimed having resolved himself to recruit Zoro no matter what. Amane now too wanted Zoro to join the corps. They took their leave from the restaurant and headed to where Zoro was being held up. This is the kind of resolve and conviction we need to end Muzan. I must recruit that man. On the other side of Shell's village we see a field that's surrounded by a fence. The field had nothing within it except one thing. A cross wooden beam with a man tied to it. This man was Roronoa Zoro. It's been 3 weeks since he has been tied and was left with only 10 days before he could be set free. He was determined to see it through. He'd lose his honor if he didn't make through the entire ordeal. After all he had promised that little girl and her mother that he would survive. He never made empty promises or went back on his word, he would see it through just as he would see through the promos he made to Kuina. He heard a noise and lifted his head to see what was going on, only to find out 2 people who looked like they didn't belong here and the little girl he saved climbing up steps placed against the fence leading her inside. Hi, what the hell are you doing, go away. Zoro yelled in protest. Didn't this girl understand how dangerous it can be for her? The girl Rika ignored his protest and came up close to him. She untied the cloth that she had and within it there were 2 rice balls. Zoro stared at the rice balls. You haven't eaten anything this entire time you've been tied up so I thought you might be getting hungry now, so I made you rice balls. Here I've never really made them before but I tried my best. Zoro stared at the girl. Listen kid I told you that I am not hungry. Now stop irritating me and get out of here, Zoro said to Rika. But, do not make me kick your ass little girl, Zoro said to Rika harshly. Now no one likes a bully, a voice said in the distance as the gates to the field opened up and a man with blonde hair wearing a purple suit and red underneath shirt walked in leading 2 other men who were only dressed in a black kimono and silver kimono. The 3 men walked up to Zoro. Roronoa Zoro you seem to be handling this well, don't you agree, the blonde man said with an arrogant smirk on his face. The name of this blonde man was Helmeppo. Outside the field. Kagaya I worry for the girl. Certain that the man who walked in is Helmeppo, Amane said to Kagaya. They were certain that the little girl was the one they saw at the restaurant earlier. She must have felt really bad and wanted to help Roronoa Zoro, Kagaya said as he stared at the group within the field. He and Amane had arrived a little while ago and got to witness the whole scene that took place. The more he looked at Zoro, the more convicted he became. He wanted this man on his side. The strength of his heart and spirit alone make him formidable. To endure this for 3 weeks under the scorching sun and cold night, all because of his word. Okay, yes, I am glazing, guys. I'll stop. Inside the field. You brought rice balls. How sweet, Helmeppo said as he grabbed one of the rice balls Rika brought. Those aren't for you. Rika yelled in protest. Helmeppo ignored her as he ate one of them. After having a taste it, then his face scrunched up in disgust as he spat a mouthful of the rice balls he had eaten. Too sweet. They are packed up with too much sugar. You're supposed to use salt, you idiot. Salt. Helmeppo yelled at Rika. But I thought they would taste better if they were sweet, Rika said with a cracking voice as if she would break down any minute. Give me that. Helmeppo said as he grabbed the remaining rice balls from Rika and threw it on the ground. He began stomping at it with anger. No, stop please, I worked so hard, Rika said. That's just so awful, Amane said as she stared at what was happening. Kagaya said nothing. Helmeppo finally stopped and what was left of the rice balls was smeared all over the ground. Too bad, you must have not read the notice. That was up. Those who assist criminals in any way will be executed, signed by Morgan. Helmeppo said. Hearing this, Rika had a look of terror on her face. You toss this kid over the fence right now, Helmeppo said to one of the 2 men he came with. Sure thing, the man said as he grabbed Rika with both hands and tossed her high and over the fence. Oh my, Amane said as she moved with haste, quickly positioning herself to catch and break Rika's fall. Rika landed in her hands safely. Are you all right, little one? Amane asked with concern. Rika looked up to see who caught her and realized it was the lady and the man she saw earlier today. Thanks, lady, Rika exclaimed in happiness. Inside the field. Damn you, Zoro said after watching what just happened. Helmeppo laughed like a hysterically with joy as he walked around Zoro. You're just dead set on staying alive, aren't you? Helmeppo said while still laughing. That's right, I am going to make it to the end of the month without any problems, Zoro said with conviction. Right, good luck with that, Helmeppo said in laughter as he and the other 2 men walked away. Only 10 days left, Zoro said to Helmeppo who was now walking away. Oh, you still assuming you'll make it to the end of those 10 days, Helmeppo laughed as if he had just heard the greatest joke. Outside the field. Some people can be just as cruel as demons, Amane said as she comforted Rika. She looked around only to see that Kagaya was no longer there with him. Kagaya. Amane looked around in confusion. She looked within the field and saw Kagaya standing in front of Zoro. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part when it drops.